everybody. Happy Wednesday. I hope that many of you are on spring break, but if not, that's okay. Hopefully, you have a break coming up. Today is March 27th. Please grab what you need to get comfortable, and I will see you back here in about 30 seconds. All right, everybody. I'm so excited to hang out tonight. I have been under, what did they say? Under the weather? Is that the right phrase? I totally just blanked out. Yeah, that's the phrase. I have been sick for like a week straight, maybe a little bit over a week, and my voice has been totally in and out. But today, I think, or yesterday was the day like I started to finally turn a little bit and like start to feel a little bit better. But again, my voice is not super fun yet. So thanks for hanging in with me. As usual, I have to tell you about EmpowerCon. We're really, really excited about EmpowerCon. 3 locations happening this summer. July 9th will be in Normal. July 16th will be in Wheeling. July 23rd will be in Palos Hills. All of the information is on our website, but it is free. It's a fabulous event, and we're really, really excited about it. So please register. Please get everything ready. Bring a teammate, come alone, whatever you would like, but we would love to see you. We also have the incredible Family and BPAC Information Series. This is free. There are offerings in English and in Spanish, and all of it is virtual. This is a family-facing opportunity. So again, a lot of folks have done like watch parties in their district, which is real cool. So you've got Alicia up on the screen, and your whole BPAC or your whole family engagement team is there, and it's wonderful. So we encourage you to check that out. Again, all that information is on our website. So stay tuned for more information and updates. So for tonight's episode, I was going back and forth between a few topics, but I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about cool and maybe different ways for us to teach and support students as they take notes. No matter what grade level you teach, right? This is a skill that we support our students in developing. Many times, though, I think not many times, but there are times where we assume students have note-taking skills. But I think it's important because this is kind of like a life skill, right? Like anytime I have a meeting, I take notes in different ways. And sometimes I play with the format of how I take notes. But I think it's one of those things that's important to teach students to reflect on, because really taking notes is a personal way to capture learning and help you remember different things. I didn't have anything linked for tonight, but I know I've read a lot of different studies about how like taking notes by hand helps your brain remember like key pieces of information and details. So I think that's also important to note. That doesn't have to mean though that we only take notes via paper pencil, but it's just something again to kind of hold on to. So I wanted to share a few different ways that I have done this with students, or that I have seen other folks do with students. I think one of the best parts about teaching is a lot of us are like hunter-gatherers, like, right? We team up with different folks, we collaborate with different folks, we're in different classrooms all the time. So it's great to see how different educators do this and do everything really. So I love it. So I'm going to share a few of those pieces tonight. So the first one is sketchnoting. And I think a lot of us have either tried it or we've seen it in action. Now, I will be totally honest with you and say that sometimes for me, sketchnoting makes me feel uncomfortable. And the reason why is because, well, let me tell you, sketchnoting is kind of that combination of taking notes and also sketching. So it's putting them together to kind of create a capture of learning, right? So it's doodle friendly, it's language friendly, and it's a combination of both. So it kind of hits on different learning preferences, right? So kids who or adults who enjoy doodling and enjoy sketching, they'll thrive here. And then the kids who kind of desire just capturing words, phrases, sentences, questions, exclamations, ideas, they can do that too. So it's good for a variety, right? So that's kind of what sketchnoting is. But I will tell you, for me, sometimes I get uncomfortable sketchnoting because I don't feel confident in my doodling skills. But because I know that about myself, I know that my tendency is when I feel uncomfortable with something, I don't use it a lot in the classroom, which can be problematic, right? I've heard a lot of things that say, like, we teach the way that we learned best. And that's not always fair to our kids. So I got to call myself out here and say, hey, Carly, just because this makes you uncomfortable, that's not an excuse. You can still incorporate it and bring it in. And because, like, this is a note taking skill, it's going to grow as you nurture that skill and as you practice that skill. So I can't just be like, oh, I don't like it, it's not for me. No, it's something that I do need to continue to work on developing and growing inside of, right? And there's this series that I 1,000% recommend because I have found so much, like, just tremendous value in it. And Doug Neal is an educator. I want to say he's a secondary teacher, but he has this really cool YouTube series called Verbal to Visual, or maybe it's called From Verbal to Visual. I don't remember. Verbal to Visual. If you Google it, you should be able to pop it up. His name is Doug Neal, and he does this powerful series where literally you can, as the educator, stand up in front of the kids and say, we're going to try out a new sketch note skill today, and let's play the video. And so Doug went ahead and he set up this series. Some of the videos are like 3 minutes, some of them are 8 minutes, but they're real short, and they introduce a different skill for supporting that sketchnoting practice. So again, what you can do is, hey kids, today we're going to try out a new skill. Let's watch the clip. You play the clip, and it's real cool because he'll go, oh, and your instructor is now going to do da. Isn't that great? So he set it up for teachers so we could just hit play and, like, try it out with kids. I appreciate that so much because, again, he kind of recognizes that not all of us feel like super comfortable with it. So I think that's a powerful thing to check out. I will also note that for me, because again, I feel self-conscious about my sketchnoting ability, I will actively, like, search out and follow folks online who sketchnote often, and they'll post stuff on their social media feeds, and I will just kind of take it and I'll look at the way that they represented different ideas and, you know, the structure and the layout of the page and the colors they used and the doodles they used to represent different words and phrases. And so that, like, again, kind of consuming that content has helped me grow in my understanding. And it's also given me a little bit of inspiration too. Valentina Gonzalez is phenomenal. She always posts really powerful graphics and sketch notes for educators serving multilingual students. So shout out to Valentina. We love you. We love you so much. Claribel Gonzalez is another one who I follow on Twitter, and she's got phenomenal sketch notes. And I want to say she was, some of her sketch notes were in a few different books. Oh, goodness. I want to say in one of the Andrea Honingsfeld books. I'll look it up and then I'll type it in the comments after. So sketchnoting, again, is a great way for students to capture their learning. And it can also be not just an individual sketch note. You can do that in partnerships or small groups. And you just lay out like a bigger piece of paper and students can collaboratively sketch notes. So I like that idea a ton. Okay. So sketchnoting, I love it. It's great. Another idea number 2, is some guided sketchnoting. Now, I will often do this for different workshops that I lead when I am in schools and districts. And I'll give everyone just a blank piece of paper. And it's usually a bright color paper because of who I am as a person. So I've got some yellow here. Surprise, surprise, it's not pink. But I want you to grab something to write with, preferably a marker, and a piece of paper. It could be a little piece of paper too. But for this practice, I'm going to do a big one just so you can see it a little bit easier on the camera. Okay. So if I were doing this with students or with other adults, I'd say, take your piece of paper. You're not going to use it this way. You're going to use it the long way today. So again, I'm kind of using some comprehensible input here, which is fantastic. All right. So let me grab like a bigger, like clipboard thing. Okay. It's still in plastic, but that's okay. That's all right. And some of you may have seen me do this if I've come to your school or district, or if we were at a conference together. I want you watching to do this with me. So I made, again, I didn't turn it this way. I turned it this way. I made a giant umbrella, and there's space in my umbrella for words. There's also space underneath the umbrella for words and phrases and doodles. Okay. So everybody has this on their paper. Now what I'm going to do is inside the umbrella, I'm going to write the phrase Multilingual Learner Advocacy Month. Multilingual Learner Advocacy Month. So inside of the umbrella, I wrote these words, Multilingual Learner Advocacy Month. Okay. And I'm doing this today because April is Multilingual Learner Advocacy Month. And we're really excited about this month, next month, just a few days from now, because we have all kinds of really great content coming your way to help you and your students and your teammates and staff to celebrate and amplify multilingual learners. So stay tuned. Lots of good stuff coming. So again, this is all we have so far. Now underneath, you see how I have all this space here? I want you to write the word resources. And that can go anywhere under the umbrella, but I just wrote the word resources here, okay? And when I say resources, that means things like templates and tools and links and book lists and ideas, right? So if you wanted to write some of those words, you can write here, right where you wrote the word resources. Or if you want to make a link to your heritage language, you can absolutely do that here. So in Español, in Spanish, the word is recursos. Okay. So estoy pensando de libros, de páginas del web. También estoy pensando en unas listas. No, ¿cómo se dice? Lista no es la palabra. Tengo que pensar un poco más. Pero estamos hablando sobre herramientas que podemos usar para ayudarnos en esa idea. Okay, so resources. All right, now another thing I want you to write is the word celebrations. Celebrations. So I wrote that on a different side. So I want you to write that on your paper. Celebrations. When I think of celebrations, I think of happy things. Maybe I'll draw like the little emoji with like something I'm shouting out, right? So you can see I'm kind of sketching here too. So I'm including words, I'm including phrases. So I'm just writing like one little word at a time, or perhaps one phrase at a time. And I'm showing it to students so that they can do it too. And they can also enhance it with their own annotations, you see? And let's do one more. Celebrations, and then tips and tools. So I wrote tips and tools. Okay. So again, that was one sample of how you could provide students that sketchnoting experience, but do it as a guided one where we're all kind of doing it together, right? So this strategy might not work all of the time, But I like this as a strategy because it's very interactive and it's modeling how to do this step by step. And of course, when we do this, it's embedding all types of comprehensible input strategies, right? I'm holding it up. I am talking through it. I'm giving a few examples. I might be linking to heritage language. And I can also be very clear if I don't speak Mongolian or Korean or whatever the languages of my students, I can invite them to make their sketch note in a language of their choice, right? To honor and incorporate their heritage language. So I love this as a guided experience for note taking. Okay. All right. Tip number 3 or idea number 3 is a choice board note-taking experience. So this was part of a TikTok that we posted on our socials yesterday. And for some reason, the video came out a little bit fuzzy, and I don't know why, but that's okay. Hopefully you were able to see the text. But basically, this is like for this time of year is pretty good too, because hopefully our students have had different exposures of different like styles of taking notes, of ways that they might want to do that. So this is one that I've done at a workshop also. And so I asked folks to pick 4. So I had them all take a piece of paper and they split it into 4ths. You could also do this into 3rds or even halves, right? Just depends on the time you have, the structure, the age level, all these different things. Okay. So I made a list of, I don't remember, maybe 6 different options on like the screen. So like part of my Google Slides presentation. So I had a list of different ways that they could capture their learning. And some of those things were like questions I have or follow-up things I need to do or people I need to email or folks I want to collaborate with or something like that. Another one was hashtags from the learning, from the lesson, from the video, from whatever. So hashtags. Now I like saying hashtags because it gives students a little bit more linguistic freedom. They don't have to feel like they have to capture, complete sentences. So I like using that one because it's a little bit linguistically inclusive. It's a little more linguistically inclusive. I also just have one that says words and phrases. So again, that one gives a little bit more linguistic flexibility. I don't have to capture my notes. And really, it's not always so good to capture notes in full, complete sentences, right? Because the purpose of a note is not to write verbatim what is being said, but it's really just to capture some big ideas. Doodles is another one that I'll include in my list. So anyway, sketch notes could be another one. So I'm going to list those out and pop them on the screen and say, if we folded our paper into 4ths, I'm going to tell the group, the students, to pick 4 from the list for how they can capture their learning. Now, it might be they have to capture that learning throughout the course of a week or 3 days, or maybe just 1 day. Depends on the age level, depends on the lesson and the structure of your course, of course, right? So I had my sample. And then what I had to do too, and I've shared this before, but sometimes I get really bad at supplying wait time or almost like processing time, right, for students. So I have to put in little moments in my slides presentations, if that's what I'm using. And I have to say, go ahead and grab your note-taking device for today and take, 60 seconds, 90 seconds to fill something in. And that prompts me, again, if I struggle with embedding wait time, I need to pop it into my slides. As a reminder, hang on, Carly, stop talking for a few minutes and go ahead and give students that time to think about the things they've learned. Maybe I do that every 3 slides, every 5 slides, depending on the nature of what's in the slides, and give students time to fill in one of these boxes or fill in maybe 1 or 2 ideas in different boxes, right? So I love this as a structure. And again, it can provide a lot of different flexibility for our students. And then questions. I think questions is another one. I don't know if I mentioned questions. But having a space to still say, like, what are questions that a third grader might ask? Or what is a question that I have as a third grader or as a sophomore or whatever, right? So that provides us a structure for taking notes, but it also provides our students with some options, right? Some agency in how they capture notes. It also reminds us that there's no wrong way to do that. You could even also include an option that says, like, write a few complete sentences, if depending on the language proficiency level of students, right? So that is another structure that I frequently utilize in my workshops. Okay. Another one kind of speaks to that same idea of almost lowering the linguistic load. And it's not necessarily lowering the load. I think it's kind of creating another entrance ramp. So listing as a genre, we all make lists all the time, and you've heard me probably talking about the EduListers challenge that I have linked on my blog. I have now done this for January, February, and March. So now this week I got to finish working on my April list. But it's a list of 25 different prompts to kind of get us creatively listing based on different prompts. Let me grab my water. Ugh. Okay. My voice is not happy with me today. That's okay. We're going to keep going. And so individual listing is one way for us to be creative. So on my blog, you have all these different like creative listing prompts, but you can also use this certainly as a note-taking structure, okay? And it's literally making a list. So if we are learning about whatever the topic is, so here's one example. When we make a list, many times we think about it in terms of like a structure like this, where we have like maybe a title and then maybe some boxes here that we check off, right? That's kind of probably how I list most frequently. I have all kinds of different, and they're all scattered all over my desk, all kinds of to-do lists, things I want to get done today, things I want to get done this week, things I need to start for the weekend, things I need to get ready for next week. I've got lists. I've got work lists. I've got personal lists. I've got like home tasks lists. So a million different things. But through this like lister challenge style, it gives students some creativity opportunities. So if we were to say at the top, like, I'm going to make a list of things that I've learned in this video, in this lesson, in this experience, whatever it is. So I would write some type of topic at the top, whatever, maybe I would write my content objective. I might do that here. And then I'm going to list out, like literally list out words, phrases, sentences, ideas, questions, whatever, right? But I'm making a list. I could even include some of those things from this structure, right? Of like mic drop moments from this video with Tim and Moby or whatever. But what's great about this idea of making a list about our learning is we can get really creative with it. So in this type of structure, I play with color, I play with different tools, I play with different setups. I have one that I did like sideways, yeah, like that. So the topic goes in the middle and then all the list of things goes all around it. So I really find a lot of joy in this type of structure. And then sometimes it's just random, you know, like structures that I kind of make up as I go. And some of them are really short entries and some of them are a little bit longer. Yeah. So what's cool about this is though, you want to give students time to kind of capture their learning, right? As it's unfolding, they're making their list. But then after their list is complete, you give them time. You give them time to enhance their list with maybe some washi tape or maybe some stickers. I have so many stickers that I order every month. I love all of these from like Sanrio, and I just get like huge packs of them on Amazon and different retailers. Um, but I give students, and maybe it's 30 seconds, maybe it's 5 minutes, depending on what's happening, depending on the vibes in the room, time to decorate. And then they can either like leave it out on their desk and do like a gallery walk type of situation, or they can just hold it up to the room, like and just do one of these things. So that way it's still in their hands. And if maybe they don't want to show today's list, maybe they really like the appearance of a different list that they did. And so they can kind of hold that up. But just the showing, the very brief showing, can give students inspiration for how to creatively capture their own list and their own note taking. Now, you could also do that from the beginning, how we did that. The first idea was sketchnoting. You could also have that be like a brief share out if you wanted to, if it fit, if it matched your students' needs, right? All of those things. Okay. The last idea is annotated note taking. Annotated note taking. So, some of you have heard me talk about listening bingo. I love listening bingo as a structure to support the domain of listening. It's kind of like my spin on a listening guide, right? But it's a little bit more interactive, and it can be very newcomer friendly for your students. So there's a lot of these like bingo generators online. My favorite one is myfreebingocards.com. This is the one that I often talk about when I do trainings or workshops or conferences. But it gives you would type in to the generator, like all your words, phrases, full sentences, questions, whatever you want kids to hold on to as they're going to do a video, an experience, an activity, whatever, a read through of a packet, whatever. And you plug it in to the device and to the generator, and then it spits out 30 different bingo cards for free. You don't have to set up an account. You don't have to put in credit card information. It'll prompt you to, but you just click through and say, no, thanks. I want the free ones. But it gives you a PDF of 30, and they're on half sheets. So it's like 15 pages, right? So I love it. So with this bingo board, right, they're all generated based on what I, am entering in. So now students, as they're listening to a video or as they're reading through a packet, whatever, now if I'm a newcomer student, I might just be checking off when I hear or see these words, phrases, ideas. I might be just checking them off. Or if I'm a student at a higher proficiency level, I might be like annotating right on here. Now, again, each student will have a different looking card. They'll all have the same content there, but they'll all have a different looking card. Those words and phrases are going to be in different places. Okay. And so now I can take this and I can annotate it. And if I have my own teacher copy, like that I'm modeling on the board, right, I can kind of support the annotation. I can model some of that, but students are really going to have to pay attention because where it is located on their paper is in a different spot. So they got to do some reading, right, and some following. So as I annotate this page, I can make links to my heritage language. If I have that literacy skill, I can write those things down. I can do doodles on here. I can write questions that I have. I might draw some symbols on here. It could be a variety of things. And I could also do this in partners, right? It doesn't have to be just individual. But then I have this, once I'm all done, if we're done watching the video or listening to the mini lesson or whatever, now I have this beautiful annotated note-taking structure, right? Now it's all ready to go. I can glue it inside of my notebook. If I have an interactive notebook situation, I can staple it in or glue it into a resource document that I already have. And so I love this. I love listening bingo because I think it's a really great take on the word, phrase, sentence bank that I often talk about. But I love this as a structure. I'll mention real quick the word phrase sentence bank, just because it came up. And I've since expanded it a little bit. So now I refer to it as a word phrase sentence question bank. So what that is, nothing fancy at all, you guys. Nothing fancy at all. It's 4 different columns, right? And this is something that I would do with students. I wouldn't do this in advance. I think it's more powerful when we do this structure with kids in the moment. And it can take as quick as 30 seconds, as long as 3 minutes, however we wanted to structure it. But before the learning happens, before we watch a video, before we dive into reading a text, before we dive into our group activities, we say, what words might we hear today based on what we've been learning? And so that goes in the first column for words. So now you're just collecting the language of the room, and you're just writing it down. And then you do the same thing for phrases. What phrases might we hear in the video today? What phrases might we see in today's reading based on like what we've been learning? And then we do full sentences. And then we have a time and space for questions. Now for the questions, that might be something that they do at the end if they still have questions. Or you might say, what questions do you think we're going to get answers to today based on what we've been learning? So you capture those questions there. Or you could ask, and I love this, I see a lot of teachers using this as a structure. So if I teach freshmen, right, I might say, what question would a freshman ask about this content? Or if I teach freshmen, I might say, what questions would a 7th grader have? Or what questions would your parents or family or caregivers have about this stuff? So assigning like a little bit of a lens, right? So we have a space to capture the questions. And then this structure stays up as like a listening guide, a reading guide, a listen for, look for guide, and then it can be annotated throughout the lesson or the video or the learning, right? So I love all of those as different structures, but we know there's a lot out there. So please share with us, what are your favorite ways to support students in developing their note-taking skills? The last one I'm going to share with you, no matter which one of these you choose or a different one you choose, I think there's a lot of value, and you might be laughing at me here because some of you know who I am as a person. I love bright, I love colorful, I love decorating stuff. I like making stuff like fun to look at. Like, I love it. I love all of it. But when you are done, when students have the chance, like they've collected all their thoughts, give them a few minutes to decorate. Yeah, decorate their notes and enhance it with the stickers and the washi tape, or just doodling lines and colors. You can get big sets of like washi tape from Amazon for pretty cheap. I've also seen them at the dollar store and Five Below. So that's another cheap option. Again, you don't have to do any of this. Kids can literally just decorate like little squigglies all over their page on any structure, right? On like they can do little borders with squiggly lines. Can you see that? Yeah. It can be on their listening bingo. It can be on their word, phrase, sentence, question bank. It could even be on the structure that we talked about. It could really be anything, but giving them that time and space to decorate and enhance their notes. For some students, that's the part that really helps them like structure and organize their thinking best. And then they have something nice to look at. So for some students, that might really matter to them. For some other students, it might not. And maybe they just go through with a highlighter, right? But giving time and space to create their notes might be what some students really look forward to. Okay. So again, if you have different ideas for us, please leave it in the comments so that we can all grow from each other in this network. And like I mentioned earlier, it's just a few days away now. April is Multilingual Learner Advocacy Month. And here at the IRC, we're super pumped about it. We've got a lot of great content coming your way to help support you in how you elevate, amplify, and celebrate our multilingual students and families all month long, and all year long, because that's our jam. Thanks so much for hanging with me tonight, and I'll catch you guys next week, where we begin with our celebration of Multilingual Learner Advocacy Month, author chats. And I have a great author lined up to talk with next week, and I can't wait for you guys to hang. Mark your calendars because you don't want to miss it. Thanks so much, everyone.